All right, so I'm going to create some objects using Autodesk Inventor. And so we're going to start with activity 4.2, model creation, and we're going to use item 1. So if you look on there, this is the handout for 4.1, and this is item 1. So the instructions are to create a 3D model of this object right in here. Now I've got this little shelf on the side, and then I've got this basic shape. I think the easiest way to do this would be to create the flat face of this object, extrude it, and then add this portion of it later. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to hide this image here because I need my screen space to show you the Autodesk Inventor. But overall, you can kind of see where these dimensions are, and if you don't, you can open up Activity 4.2, Item 1. So I'll set this aside. This is my Autodesk Inventor screen. I've already built a project folder 4.2 for Activity 4.2. You can do that by clicking on Projects here and starting a new folder if that's what you wanted to do. So I'm going to start a new part. And in that new part, I'm going to go ahead and start a new sketch. So once this opens up, I'm going to start a new 2D sketch. You'll note also, if you hover over any of these commands long enough, it'll pull up this menu here like this so you can see exactly what that feature does. So that's really helpful. All right, so when I start a new 2D sketch, it wants to know which plane I want to use to put that in. And I'm going to use the XY plane. That's my usual go-to plane. And I open up a normal XY Cartesian plane in here. And that's what I'm going to use to build that flat face. Again, I'm building this flat portion right here, this front face view. Okay, so there's a couple of ways I could do that. And the first would be to do it line by line, putting the dimensions of the line and the angle between those lines in, something like this. So I click the line tool, start at origin. I'm going to click up, and I could type in 1.5, since that's the height. And I could hit tab, and then 90 degrees. You can see that over on the side over here. See how that angle changes. I want that at 90 degrees, so I'm going to type 90, enter, and that snaps right to a 90-degree angle. Now, I'm going to use the mouse wheel here to scroll out so you can see the whole thing. I could have hit this home button over here if that's what I wanted to do. That centers it up as well, and then hit front. So I want this flat front view. Okay, so if I'm going to click anywhere else on here and I don't want to create a whole bunch of lines, I need to hit the escape button because you can see up here it's thinking I'm still doing lines. And so as long as until I hit escape, it's going to continue to create new lines, and so I don't want to do that. So I hit escape, and I can go through and I can do whatever it is I want to do here. All right, so let's go ahead and put in another line. The other way to do this thing is to build the basic shape, regardless of its dimensions, then go back in and fix the dimensions. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to click here. That's the next point. Make sure my line's touched. And I'm just going to go over, and I'm not caring what my dimensions are. I just want to get somewhere so that it'll look something like this object. Going straight down, over, up, going over. And now I'm all connected. So remember, I got to hit escape here, otherwise I'm going to continue making lines. So that looks like my original shape. You can see that shape right there looks just like it. So next I'm going to go ahead and start putting in these dimensions, this 1.5, 1 over here, 2 here, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to do that using the dimension tool, which is right there. I hit the dimension tool, click on the line I want to dimension, and look, I got pretty lucky. I want that to be 1.0, and I hit enter. Do the same thing for this one. This is 2. This one's 1 also. And it really doesn't matter where I put these. I don't have to follow my dimensioning rules so much because these aren't going to stay here. They're going to go away after a while. And it looks like I've got an extra line in here somehow. I'm going to escape to get out of my dimensioning tool. And I'm going to try to see what I've got going on here. For some reason, this created a line in here for me that I don't want. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to add a new line in. And it's okay. People make mistakes. So the question, the ability to be able to fix them is what's important. All right. So I've got that line now. I could check that dimension on that line I just drew. Looks like it's 0.5, so I should be good to go. All right. So I've got the shape, but I've got it dimensioned properly. I'm going to hit Finish Sketch. Okay, well, that blew right up off the edge. So I'm going to hit the Home button just to bring it, and that automatically centers it and brings it all into view. So I think I've got everything I need. So I'm going to use the Extrude tool, which is right here, Extrude. I'm going to click on that. That brings up this window right here. I'm going to select the profile, which just automatically defaults to that profile because I only have one shape on here. I click on the distance. I could do it two, or if I have two objects, I could do it between two objects or to an object. In this case here, since I have nothing else to use, I'm going to hit distance, and I'm going to type in 2.5 since that's my depth dimension, and I'm going to hit OK. And you can see that automatically created that first portion of this object. So I'm in good shape right now. All I need now is this shelf. So that shelf shape is just a rectangle, and it goes right here on this face. So I'm going to click on that face. I'm going to go over to this tab on the far right. It says Create Sketch. And that brings me into this view. And I just need a simple rectangle. So I'm going to left-click on my, left-clicked on my rectangle tool. I hit left-click and held it down, and I dragged it to here. Now I'm not going to click again. I'm just going to leave it open right now. I'm going to type in the value. I know that this bottom dimension here is 1.5. That's the width. And if I hit tab, it goes to the height dimension, which is 0.25. Type that in, and then I hit enter. Boom, I have my rectangle. All that's left is to position it. But remember, I'm in the rectangle that it's highlighted, so if I click anywhere else, I'm going to create a whole other rectangle that I may or may not want. So if you do that, just hit escape, and it's gone. And then now I'm out of the rectangle tab. It's gone. So I'm going to use the dimension button. I'm going to pick that dimension from here to the top, click the second line, drag it over, and that should be 0.75. When you use the dimension tool, if you click just on a line like that, it's going to tell you what that dimension is. Well, this one we already know is 0.25 because that's a rectangle and that's fixed. But if I left click on this angle, on this line I mean, and I left click again on this one, it'll tell me what the distance is between these two. And that's exactly what I want, because I think that, I know that the distance from here to here is supposed to be 0.5. So I click here, you see where that 2.5, if I don't do anything else, it assumes I want to measure the length of that line, but I don't. I want to measure this distance. And so you see if I drag it to the edge, now it puts that little dimension symbol in there saying, you want to know what the distance is to there. It says, yes, that's what I want. I move back down into the middle. I'll drag it down here to get it off my map, and I'm going to go 0.5, enter. And now it's dimensioned. I don't have to do any other dimensions because from here to here is fixed. I couldn't change it if I wanted to. And same thing from the distance from here to here is fixed. Again, because this overall length is fixed, and this distance and the length of my rectangle is fixed. So just like Rule 4B in dimensioning, I couldn't change this dimension even if I wanted to. So I'm done. Okay, so I'm going to finish my sketch, and there I've got my rectangle that I want to extrude. So I'm going to hit the Extrude button, select the object. I'm going to use my Profile button to select the object I want to extrude. Put in the dimensions. It defaults to the last dimension I used, but in this case I want 0.75. And I'm going to hit OK. Like I said, all those nasty dimension lines went away, and I have a nice clean object. So I've asked you guys to use PowerPoint to build your slide in there. So if you'd opened up a blank PowerPoint slide, might look, if you use just a blank slide, obviously open up to those title pages, which I hate, but anyway, it's going to look something like this. So I need to put that picture in here. So I'm going to go back to my object. I'm going to use, this is the snipping tool. You can find it this way. I keep it on my quick access bar, but you can go into the Windows button and just type in SNIP. and it'll pop right up like that. So click on the snipping tool, and you'll get this view like this. So I'm going to click the New button, and I'm going to select what I want to snip, and then I just right-click on the image, and then hit Copy, go to my PowerPoint, and hit Paste. And there's my object. And I can resize it, do anything I want to, just like any other image, move it around, and that's good. So I want you to put your conclusion questions or your questions from the assignment right here. That's image 1. We'll repeat this for images 2 and 3, which I'll do in the next video.